I'm Brooklyn Bertolini.
And I'm Erin Hermestone.
And this is History 101.
In this segment, we'll be covering the history of the Berlin Wall.
The Berlin Wall was initially constructed starting on August 13, 1961, by the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, and it was dismantled in the weeks following November 9, 1989. The demolition began on June 13, 1990, and was completed in 1992. The wall was constructed in the midst of the Cold War. The Cold War was not an actual war, but rather the tensions that formed among the world powers, such as the United States and the Soviet Union, as a result of World War II. It lasted for decades and created many issues, with the Berlin Wall being one of them.
Germany was split into two at this time, East Berlin and West Berlin. The East belonged to the Soviet Union, and the West was under the United States, France, and Britain's mandate. The wall was supposed to show a cutting line through all of Berlin and was intended to prevent East Berliners and citizens of East Germany from fleeing to the West, where they did not have to face any dictatorship or communism. There was also a large amount of emigration occurring between the two sections due to the workforce, and Eastern Germany was suffering economically from it. So, the Berlin Wall was an attempt to bring money back into that part of Germany as well.
The layout of the Berlin Wall was very extensive. At first, the wall was just coils of barbed wire strung along the border to West Berlin, but it was later replaced by a wall of concrete slabs and hollow blocks. The barrier included guard towers placed along large concrete walls. It also included a wire mesh fence, a control strip, floodlights, anti-vehicle trench, an outermost boundary of manned area, a border patrol road, wire guiding dog patrols, a signal device, observation towers, and electrified signal fence.
It is important to note that the wall was constructed by East German workers and troops and not the Soviet Union directly. It was built a little ways into the territory of East Germany so as not to obstruct West Berlin in any way, as that actually belonged to them. The builders worked hard and the wall was built quickly. It shockingly only took a few days to construct.
After the wall was built, East German leadership was not able to completely stop the westward migration. Because of this, what began as a simple wall evolved into a complex, multi-layered border installation designed to prevent escapes. Border soldiers and pioneer units added temporary individual barriers behind the wall. Large expanses of this area were also blocked off by a fence. Over the years, more and more barriers were installed within the death strip. An inner wall was added in the 70s that blocked off the border strip to East Berlin and the German Democratic Republic. Border fortifications were constantly being developed and improved. A carpet of steel spikes lay at the foot of the fence with the sharp ends pointing upward, either to injure or deter fugitives. At night, the border strip was lit up brightly by a line of lamps, allowing border soldiers to see fugitives in the dark.
There were 8 official border crossings between East and West Berlin, with restrictions based on which nationality was allowed to use each crossing. There were also a few other border crossings in East Germany. The crossings expanded in 1972 to not only allow visits with permits and passage into neighboring countries, but to also allow waste from West Berlin to be put into East Germany's dumps. West Berliners had severe restrictions in the initial period of the wall's construction, with only 2 out of 12 crossing points on the wall reserved for Germans. Despite the building of the wall and the crossing points, many Germans tried to escape. Over the course of the wall's standing, there were about 5,000 successful escape attempts. On the other end, there were around 200 deaths and many more who withstood injuries. The methods in which people escaped include tunnels, aerial wires, and light aircraft.
The wall is considered to have fallen on November 9, 1989, but the structure was not completely taken down that night. It was gradually smashed to pieces over the following weeks. Many people took part in the demolition of the wall by using hammers and chisels to destroy the wall. They kept pieces of the wall for themselves. The government finally destroyed the remaining parts of the wall in 1990, although parts of it remain in Berlin and in the museums around the world. As revolutions against the Soviet Union rose through the 1980s, people in the German Democratic Republic started to demand greater personal and political freedoms, as well as that of movement, and protesters demanded they be allowed into the West. After Hungary and Czechoslovakia opened their borders to East German, defectors began to drain from the country, and the government found it increasingly difficult to refuse calls to open legal crossings. When the border was eventually opened, it was almost by accident. When the queue at the migration office the next day, it was too late, and thousands of East Germans were already on their way to the barricade.
There are 3 pieces of the wall still standing in Germany, but they are so badly damaged and have so much graffiti that they do not resemble how it originally was. Today, the pieces of the wall are highly sought after collectibles. As for the falling of the wall, it marked the end of the Cold War, especially for Americans. 71% of people surveyed in 1989 said that they believed that the economy in Eastern Europe would improve after the fall. And naturally, the unified Germany has one of the most successful economies today.
15 years after the Berlin Wall fell, a private museum rebuilt a 200-meter section close to Checkpoint Charlie, a border crossing between East and West Germany, during the Cold War, although not in the location of the original wall. They also erected over 1,000 crosses in memory of those who had died attempting to flee to the west. The memorial was installed in October 2004 and demolished in July 2005.
The Berlin Wall was overall a landmark point in history for Germany and the world. It divided families and limited opportunities for those living in the country. Freedom was restricted, so the fall greatly benefited Germany as a whole and proved the idea of strength in numbers to be true.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe down below.